What about all of these outer circumstances that I don't have any control over? What about the economy? What about the realities of our political landscape?
Right.
It's easy to fall into, believing that we are a victim of circumstances.
Yeah. And not only that, but everything is all at once, right? Something's going on in your economic reality, something's going on in your relationships, something's going on with your landlady, something's going on at your kid's school, and it's like all at once.
Yeah.
And how can, it's like, it's not really fair for us to say, it's all on you, or whatever however you might be interpreting what we're saying. But we're not saying it's your fault. Blaming is not helpful to anyone. And fault finding, unfortunately, is also not helpful.
Yeah.
Whether it's you finding fault with yourself or finding fault with the world for you being in the circumstances that you're in. So the question, especially if you're a little bit in crisis, isn't, okay, well, what caused this? The question is, how are you gonna find your way out?
Right.
You have to grow out of what got you here. What got you here isn't going to get you out of it. So in Magenta, we also call these entanglements, and we also call them checkmates.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of what we do is about how to untangle from these crazy entanglements that we can find ourselves in.
And it's up to each of us to outgrow these entanglements in our own lives, and then the system changes. It's not the other way around. We can't wait around for the politics to change, and then our life is going to change.
Yeah, that's not the
we
solution.
have to untangle, and then the world mirrors that. What people are tolerating, what people are accepting, what lives in our consciousness as a people is what gets reflected in the larger consciousness.
Yeah, and the world is more fungible than we realize. We get so fixated on what we believe and what we conclude, but the world is more fungible than that.
Yeah.
So the goal here is to get you out of your thinking and stuckness and into seeing new possibilities that you couldn't see.
Yeah.
So long as you were stuck and addicted to what you believe and what you feel and your typical strategies, because they're not working.
Right.
But the way out is this inner development, spiritual development path.
Yes.
And what happens is, instead of, so with the story of the Gordian knot, it couldn't be solved on one dimension, but on the other dimension, one end was pulled and the whole thing unraveled. And so the picture here is that as you change how you think and what you feel and what you do, the strategies that you're employing that are simply not working and probably getting you the opposite of what you need, as those things change and shift and you grow out of certain addictions and stuck patterns that you've been stuck in, then the problems go away of themselves. It's kind of magical and really cool.
Yeah, I want to say that pursuing your purpose, pursuing your meaningful work that part of you longs to do, maybe you're doubting whether it's practical, whether it's viable. This work is going against the grain of our society, of our culture and where we are right now, of this culture that we are living in that we know, so many of us know is unhealthy.
Right.
But we can't wait for the culture to change and then we'll start living a healthy life. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So we each have to go against the grain and forge a new way. And it's not easy, but it will be meaningful. We're not saying that you just heal your thinking and your feeling and you find inner peace and then your life is just going to be easy and you're not going to have to work very hard anymore.
Unfortunately not.
No, but it can be devoid of all of your triggers, of your meltdowns about it, or your
dramas.
pity parties about it.
Yeah.
So you can take on the very hard work, finding your way forward in a way that meets your needs.
Yeah. So going against the grain is hard to do because what you're doing is you're not continuing status quo.
Yeah.
And when you don't continue status quo, there's more resistance in the world against what you're trying to do. Let's just be
Right.
honest about this.
Yes.
So activating and being on the path and being dedicated to like finding and then pursuing your true purpose,
Yeah.
is not for the faint of heart.
Right.
But we all have to do it.
Yeah, the status quo is easy, but how many people are living their status quo lives in quiet desperation?
Right,
It's
exactly.
soul-crushing jobs because that is the easy path to, financial stability and success as it's defined in our culture.
Right. But that's less and less being true.
Yeah.
That the status quo is going to give you financial security, because unfortunately that's less and less the case.
Yeah.
Americans have never had so much debt, credit card debt, as they have now.
Yeah.
And inflation is crazy.
Yeah. So we really need everybody to be going against the grain.
Basically. So going against the grain, by that we really mean that you take your inner work, your inner life in hand, that you realize that your attention is mostly focused outward, and that's understandable. We all do this. But the more you cultivate and nourish your inner life, and the more you invest in it, the more it will grow and become a source of, it's almost like instead of being constantly dependent upon the outer world and you're responding to the outer world, that begins to change. Your priorities begin to change, and instead of, you're less knocked about by the stuff that's going on in your outer life, and you have more inner agency about how you're going to respond to it.